Welcome to Beer 30, everybody. It's Beer 30.
Beer 30?
I haven't said that in a long time. That's awesome.
Even my kids are excited. I don't know, because I'm getting out of the house.
I don't know what that says. Does that say something about your kids?
I
What
don't
are you
know.
doing?
I think it was the fact because I wasn't in my underwear sitting on the couch or something. Don't you have Beer 30?
Are you sure? You sure you don't have
Beer
Beer 30?
going on your way?
Exactly. Does that mean you get a shower today, Dad?
Please.
Woo! Dad showered today.
Anything for just a little win. I just need a little win.
Well, they were some of our most loyal fans.
They were, because they were dragged here every week.
That's right. We always had an audience, didn't we? not?
Yes, we
right.
did.
Yeah.
I am.
And I was always paranoid about what we were saying.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I know. You tried to make it kid-friendly.
I did.
Yeah.
That was noble. That was
Very
noble.
good.
I'm Pete Wright, and it's been a long time, and I'm sitting here with
Mary Bradbury.
I don't even remember your name.
I saw that look in your eye.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
thinking,
God, senior
Who the
moment.
hell are you?
Jeez.
And Jamie sporting the Beer
The
30
Beer
shirt,
30
That's
live
which is
shirt.
practically an antique.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll be selling these, though, on the website.
We will
soon.
be signing
Yeah,
this on
so
the
you
website
can,
soon, right?
Buy those.
The
Yes.
website, which awesomely enough is our Facebook page. And so we encourage everybody to go friend us, join us up on Facebook, join the page and participate in the link madness as we post ridiculousness and comment, please. We welcome it. And of course, you're welcome to join us here at lovely John Barleycorn's McMinimans here in, are we in Tigard? Is this considered Tigard?
I
I think
think it is,
it's
yeah.
still Tiger, right next to Lake Oswego.
Right next to
Or
Lake
there.
Oswego, Oregon. If you're not from here, come to Oregon,
Right.
and then come to
Come.
Tigard and come join us for a
fact,
beer.
if
Which
you're-
ironically, none of us are drinking today. Is it because it's too
Yeah.
early? Is that what
I
it
think
is?
so.
I don't
I don't
know.
know. But if you come from your out of town, we'll even
We
buy
will
you a
drink.
beer.
We'll buy
We
you
will-
beer.
We'll drink and we'll buy
And
you
then
a
we'll
beer.
drink Arnold Palmer's.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but anyhow.
So
What's on the agenda today?
what do we have to talk about today? We've got a bunch of things to talk about. I think the biggest story, biggest series of headlines involves the healthcare debate.
Healthcare.
And I know just from knowing you guys that obviously Mary wants healthcare reform, and Jamie, you are likely in favor of the death panels. And you've already volunteered to join the death panels
Yeah.
and
To be the
Actually-
executioner?
hopefully put some old people to sleep.
Actually, to
If we
to
could-
set the record straight now, let's make sure we understand this. I am all for healthcare reform.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think there are some challenges with the current healthcare reform debate. Part of it is, what are we trying to accomplish with the healthcare reform? Are we trying to accomplish getting the 50 million people who don't have insurance on? Are we trying to make it cheaper? What are we trying to do? I think that's part of the debate here.
Do you think at any point they defined that in the 1,000-page bill that they wrote? Or
It doesn't seem to be.
But I think that's a tricky question. Is it in there, or
has
has
anybody read
it?
Right.
That's very true.
Quite
Yeah.
clearly, the Republicans haven't read it. Judging by their talking points, judging
Sure.
by Michael Steele and Grassley and all these people, when confronted, they don't know what's in the bill.
Oh yeah, and they demagogue everything. They take every little tiny thing and they blow it out of proportion and say they're going to be death panels and this and that. I mean, we all know that. That's how you
Right.
scare
And you
people
know
into
what
getting
was-
them to do what you want them to do.
What was so interesting, and I'm forgetting the name, but the whole thing that started the death panels was we can compensate doctors who sit down to discuss end-of-life issues,
counseling.
which everybody does right now. Doctors just can't be compensated for it.
Right.
But anyway, from my understanding, it was a Republican that put that in there.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And then when the president at one of his things said, and it was so-and-so that did that, then he comes out and says, I did not.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
ridiculous. The whole healthcare debate is
it's-
spun out of control.
Yeah, I'm
And
disgusted.
I don't even think the Democrats know how to get
Yeah.
it through. They can't even agree
Well-
in their own party what they're going to do.
Yeah, but they were foolish to think that they could do this in a bipartisan manner.
I don't know.
I think
Yes,
so.
we can.
Oh,
Isn't that the
please.
mantra?
Oh, please.
Yes,
This
we
is what
can.
it's
We
gonna-
can
you know,
rise
yeah.
above. Yes, we can.
Right.
Right.
But then you have like Grassley, who comes out,
Yeah.
on the stuff and says, I purposely manipulated and lied to the White House in order to delay this whole thing so this madness could ensue.
But again,
So-
even
so
the
that's a
Democrats they even can't agree. Are we going to have a government-run system or are we not?
Right.
It's dead if you don't have a government-run system. It's dead if you do. Do co-ops work? Do co-ops not work? I mean, come on. There's not even agreement amongst the Democrat Party.
I think it's unfair.
Well-
I think that argument is unfair in the context. No. I think it's unfair in the context of just how egregious the Republicans and the lobbies have treated this argument. The Democrats don't necessarily agree on what the final healthcare strategy is. Okay, I'll give you that.
I mean, but
The
Democrats never always
Republicans
agree.
and the lobbies are outright stonewalling and advocating riots. How do you compare those
so
things?
I mean, I
How
would
do you do
agree.
it?
There is a section of the Republican Party that has really just dug its heels in, and I think it's shameless. It's horrible, right?
Well,
but
it's the
let's
vocal
step back.
section.
But let's step back. It was the blue dog Democrats that held it up for a long period of time.
Who, give me a
demanding-
break. They're Republicans.
They are Republicans. They just can't
Blue
run
Dog
as
Democrats
Dems in their state.
is a nice way to say that I wouldn't be elected in my state.
No, they're
because
just
I'm-
trying to be socially responsible. Come on, do we really have the money for hundreds of billions of dollars of reform when it comes to healthcare? I mean, there's got to be.
Yes, because there's a lot of waste out there.
Smarter,
Yeah, but you
smarter
can't
people
do
than
it.
I are trying to figure that out.
I mean,
have
Ron
a-
Wyden's got a bill out there that's been shown
Yeah.
from the CBO to be neutral in terms of revenue and expenses, and it's got a lot of supporters, and that's not getting any airplay. Why not? I mean, it's ridiculous. How come we're not looking at solutions that don't?
Well, I think
cost
the
a lot
problem
of
with
money?
Ron Wyden's bill, and I looked at his platform paper on his website, and it requires, I think, an understanding of some complex trigonometry to figure out what the hell he even wants to
Right,
do.
yeah.
I don't know what he wants to do. Like, I read it, and there are a lot of numbers and percentages, and it feels to me a lot like nothing good would come of it for me.
What's the only one that's been scored by the CBO, which I'll have to assume they're smarter
As-
than I am, right? And is the most neutral group we have.
Right.
has
right.
been
And that-
has been shown to be revenue neutral and to cover the vast majority of Americans. So why aren't we really talking about it?
Yeah, okay, I give you that.
I will give you that. Because I don't think, because in the end, I don't think that, I'm not saying that all Republicans don't want it, but I think the Republican establishment is basically going to say, we're not going to allow anything.
Yeah.
You know,
Anything,
Well, I think
whether
that-
that's pre-existing conditions, whether that's dropping 6 people, they're not going to allow any of it, and there's 2 reasons. One, they are not going, it's all about winning and their side back in power. They're not going to allow this president to be successful at all, and it doesn't matter if the majority of their citizens are saying, I want this. Okay, that's not what they're interested in. They're interested in staying in power and keeping the corporate monarchy hold on our government. That's the reality. Whether it's the oil industry or healthcare or big pharma or the energy sector, the bottom line is that our government, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, have been bought and sold.
I agree.
And they are going to do what their contributors give them, and that's big corporations.
I agree there is a sense in both parties that if you're out of power, your job is to do whatever you have to do to make life miserable for the
Exactly.
people that are in power. And in this debate, healthcare becomes the big wedge issue. And then if you can't get it done, then people are like, well, why did we vote for those Democrats then? We ain't going to do that. And the Republicans say, well, we can do a better job than they can. And all of a sudden,
they'll
the
get in
tide-
power and
they'll
there
get in
won't be
power.
anything.
So it really is a horrible state of affairs when it really doesn't become how to win for America,
Right.
but how to get the football back
Yeah.
Yeah.
at all costs.
Yeah, I think
What a
that's
shitty-
really the biggest challenge, I think, and it's why when you ask me on a scale of, you know, do I trust X political party or do I trust X system, I'm going to say time and time again that, you know, I don't trust the Republicans. But the reason I don't trust Republicans is because I don't trust their puppeteers. I don't believe that there's a soul in any one of them. I believe they are all caught by the lobbies. I really do.
Yeah.
Now, are
I
there,
think that's true on the other side of the
I
aisle
think
too.
it probably is.
I don't think you
it
can pick
probably
one party
is.
out.
But I think it's so blatant on these. You see these guys standing up at their town hall meetings. You see Grassley stand up and say, pulling the plug on Grandma at 73. I think you should be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be afraid. Be very,
Now, who
very
wrote that talking
afraid.
point? Who wrote that talking point? Because it wasn't him.
But it
He's
was the
not
party
a
out of power. I mean, again, I don't think you can necessarily. We could talk about a different issue where, 4 years ago, when Obama wasn't in power and it was the Democrats who were doing the same thing. I think it's all about political football. I don't think it's about really getting stuff done, which is the
biggest shame because the
then we
system
have
is failing
we have
us.
50 million people that
Yeah.
are, and all the underinsured. I mean, we report numbers, 50 million not insured. There are millions of people who are underinsured. That have huge problems. They can't get the medication they need, or it's too expensive, or whatever. And we don't have a good system for them. And we're the richest nation in the world. Come on, how stupid is that?
Well, I mean,
Hence,
I'm
an
freelancer,
independent, right? That's why I
Yeah,
can swing both
that's
ways.
fair. Yeah, boy, that's the truth.
Well, yeah, don't even.
I'm an independent contractor. I'm a freelancer, right? So I have no corporate dole for insurance. So I got to find my own insurance.
Yeah.
You know what? For a country that supposedly is behind small businesses, that's really hard to do.
Right.
That's
Well,
really
and
hard to
insurance
do.
hurts your ability to change jobs. I mean, it's one of the things that one of my big pet peeves over it is, let's say you've got a job and it has insurance, and you're looking at another job that maybe is closer to home, or maybe has more upside or whatever, or is more interesting to you, but it doesn't have as good insurance. So all of a sudden, you can't take that job, you can't explore the American dream because you can't afford the chance of not having insurance or being underinsured.
Right.
Well,
Or the other angle that I'd take is in a lot of families, and again, and the Republicans love to wrap themselves that they're all about the family values in the Bible. And you have a lot of families out there where both parents work and the one person's working strictly so that the family has health care.
Yeah. And that's
So
ridiculous.
if we're really about family values and taking care of the next generation, wouldn't you be a party that advocates for one of the parents
Hey, Jesus
staying
was a
home?
healer, right?
Right? Wouldn't you advocate for that? But you don't. I mean, and so that's a huge problem.
Jesus would have been
Absolutely.
in an HMO though by now.
Sorry, I can't heal you because you can't pay your copay.
Yeah, that's right.
That'll be $20. Pay in
That's
advance.
exactly right.
Yes.
No,
It's
gets
ridiculous.
It gets to a bigger issue, and I think we got to
a
get back to
moral
that
issue.
that issue of who really runs this country, because it's not
big. It's big
It's
business.
big business. Have you
Yes.
guys seen? Have you seen this movie Food Inc. yet?
No, but it's on my list. Yes.
It's one of those movies, and
Dude, I can't afford the movies anymore, so I gotta wait till it comes out on the street corner
yeah,
where I can buy it for $1.
This is one of
Netflix.
those movies where it should. The whole concept is it's a documentary that walks you through where your food comes from, and it talks about chicken farming. It talks about beef farming and feeding. It talks about pork and fish and
seeds, because it goes into Monsanto.
well, that's the real trick. It's the Monsanto monopoly on corn and soy seeds that because they own the gene, the patent that protects the seeds from their pesticide Roundup. They're called Roundup Ready seeds. So they're genetically altered seeds that are pesticide free or pesticide resilient.
Yes.
The farmers can't buy their own seed anymore, so they become beholden to Monsanto. Monsanto has a hit squad of 70 black-suited ex-military guys who follow farmers around to make sure they're not seed cleaning, make sure they're not holding seed at the end of the year. So 90% of the of soy products and corn products that you buy in this country are owned by Monsanto. It all goes back to this major corn lobby.
Right. Well, and let's not even go there with the corn lobby on all our health problems that they've caused. Yet it cycles back, and we've got a healthcare problem. The fact that the corn syrup and the high fructose corn syrup is in everything.
Yeah.
That's why we have an obesity problem.
Well, it certainly
in this
contributes
country.
to it. I mean, it doesn't help that people sit on their ass all day and watch TV.
Well,
but So,
But
but
it's-
things like high fructose corn syrup do not help by any stretch of the imagination.
And here's the problem with the movie like this. So I saw it with my wife, and we were walking down the street afterwards, and there's a poster up right outside the theater, and we overhear this another couple standing there, and they say, oh, look at this movie. Oh, God, tells you where your food came from. Ugh, I'm not going to see it. I don't want to know that.
Man, I'd
I'm
rather
sure
be
it's-
ignorant
I'm sure it's
and
disgusting.
unhealthy
Well,
and
That's
sick.
the problem,
That
though.
is-
I mean, this is the problem. It's those are the people who are listening to the propaganda about healthcare, and
absolutely.
they're the ones standing up screaming. They're the ones who are okay letting this bile seep into their collective conscious and making it okay to be ignorant.
Right.
Why is that okay?
No,
How
it's
has
not
it happen?
okay. But it happens. It's very unfortunately. I don't want to stereotype people, but a lot of people are like that. They buy into it. They don't think intellectually. They don't kind of sift
Well,
through
that's
it
the
to figure
dumbing
out
down
the
of
argument.
America. That's
Absolutely.
been a big
I mean,
goal.
You ever watch
we don't
Barney
want critical
Frank?
thinkers.
Barney Frank's got a couple great videos
Yes.
on
Oh,
it.
he's
We should post it.
fantastic.
The guy is so outspoken. His own town hall, and he's sitting there saying, arguing with you. This is his own
Yeah,
constituent.
I
He
saw
says,
this one.
I loved
arguing
it.
with you is like arguing with the dining room table.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, these people are your
Yeah.
voters, man.
Right. Yeah.
But he
But
just calls it
like
like
it
he
is.
sees it.
Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of those people show up in those things, and their arguments are just bogus, or they're misinformed, or whatever.
Right.
And you can't even have an intellectual discussion
there
about
is
them to
no
get to the
such
bottom line. No.
Yeah, because they're not interested in it. They're not
No.
interested in data, facts, or any evidence that's
Right.
counter to what it is. What they are really excited about is, scandals and sex and fighting and violence. I mean, just all of
Yeah.
that stuff. That's what's fun and sexy. And going to a movie to learn about what's really going on
Yeah.
and what
Right.
you're putting into your body,
Yeah.
But it also goes into the, that the big corporate farms, whether it's agriculture, like you were saying, coming in and, driving out the small farmer, the farmer that's maybe had this in their family
can't
for how
afford
many
it.
years?
I mean, coming from
You
a
can't
farming
compete
family,
with those people.
you can't hardly afford to farm because the cost, it's economies of scale. The cost of operating your farm with the equipment, the insurance, the overhead, etc., for the amount that you can produce, for what you get from this commodity, the profit is so small you can't hardly do it. So the only way to really succeed is to collectively people get together and sell their stuff or whatever, form these big co-ops to try and keep your costs down. I mean, it's the only way,
Right.
and that's how all these big businesses kind of bubble up over time and get so much power. But where I think, to go back to the healthcare debate in the first place, I think the Democrats have overreached from day one with the healthcare debate is putting it in terms of the billions of dollars that it's going to cost at a time when the economy's in the tank. I mean, the Oregonian the other day had this stat: 24% of Oregonians are unemployed or underemployed. I mean, 1 in 4, and we're not atypical in any stretch.
Right.
So then to put the debate in terms of, now it's going to cost X trillions of dollars on top of a bailout that really hasn't done a whole lot, on top of this huge deficit.
but
people are
there's
looking at
reasons
it and they're
to
saying,
bail
out.
listen, we aren't paying for that.
No.
There's just no
Well,
way.
part of it is a tax increase on like the top 2% of the country. And, my understanding of it, it's something like an additional, $1,500 a year in taxes. Apparently, that's outrageous to ask for a person making $1 million a year to kick in an extra
Right.
$1,500. And these people are at these town halls screaming and yelling. Do you really think that the top 2% of this country is really interested in helping you out? They
Yeah.
aren't.
Yeah.
And so you sit here and you scream and yell about how private insurance is better. Do you really think that when a real issue goes down with that insurance company, do you ever think you can get in the door to see the CEO of that
Yeah.
company?
Yeah.
Hell
Yeah.
no. But you can get in the office to see your congressman and
Yeah.
tell them what you think, and
Yeah.
they have to have you come in and they have to listen to you.
Yeah.
So there's at least, somebody's got to run it. That's the bottom line. I think we all agree that we need a healthcare system in this country, and
Well,
somebody's
it's the-
got to
it's
run
the
it. So the
Medicare
point is who do you
discussion.
trust?
It's the Medicare discussion. You ask the old people, you say, do you like your Medicare? And then you ask them who runs it. They don't know that the government
Yeah.
runs their health
You know,
care.
Yeah, we already have
39% of
government run.
Americans want the government out of their Medicare.
Yeah.
We already have government-run healthcare.
Yeah.
It's
And
Medicare.
you know what? People like it an
Yeah.
awful lot.
Yep. And the only thing that's the downside with it, which is, was part of this bill to fix it, which is the reimbursement rates in certain states, and that's out there. But I was listening to, a doctor that was, on the TV talking about the whole issue. And he said, now Medicare does pay less than private insurance, but it's far less of a hassle. You don't have to deal with all this paperwork. They don't hem and haw and jack you around with what they're going to pay for. They don't sit and say, we lost the paperwork. You got to submit it again, and the doctor's office does it again. He said the time you wait for payment from private insurance, it's like double. Medicare, the bill they pay.
Yeah.
So, and the thing where I think the Democrats went wrong, quite frankly, which, and I'm not that brilliant, and all those people are lawyers, so I don't get what's going on up there.
Problem is they're lawyers.
But what
lawyers
they should
doesn't
have
mean
done
they're
is they
smart.
should have gone in and they should have said, we want Medicare for all. That should have been the major goal. And then when the Republicans had a conniption over it and the negotiations start, they would say, okay, we won't go that route, but how about a public option that people who don't have insurance can buy into? But instead, they went right off and said, they went to them and said, we'll take Medicare off the table if you don't fight us.
Yeah.
And the Republican Party sat and said, we won't fight you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I don't.
then what'd they do?
I don't think Obama's done a good job of leading this, quite frankly.
Oh, I don't either.
I mean, I think one of the things I've been disappointed with him is fiscally he hasn't been very conservative, and I worry about that as a country because we cannot afford to spend like we're spending, and we can't maintain the debt that we're maintaining. But two, he hasn't really led this fight at all. He basically handed it over to Congress and said, you guys do it.
Because he didn't want to do the Clinton mistake.
Because he didn't want to do the Clinton mistake of micromanagement. But there's a middle way. Part of it is he didn't build any, talk about leadership, right? He didn't build any wins really leading up to it. There was no, step-by-step strategy to get people there. He just took this big idea of healthcare reform and said, here, you go figure it out. Well, there are several hundred people in Congress, and there's no way, right? You have to kind of spoon feed it to them. You have to put together a strategy. You have to kind of figure out, like Mary is saying, how you're going to go about it. And they didn't do that. And now it's a big mess.
Right.
It's a big mess, but I don't know that it's necessarily unfair to characterize this as a mistake. I mean, it was very much a conscious choice to do this, and I think it's because I believe.
Well, I know why.
I believe he believes, and I believe the administration believes that the condition of the healthcare system is a systemic part of the current and future economic
It's
crisis.
going to bankrupt us
It's
if
something
we don't fix it.
that
Clearly,
they,
yes.
it's something that they have to deal with, and his experts are saying we have to deal with it now.
Right.
If we don't start dealing with it now,
I
it will
agree.
bankrupt us
But-
even more than what we have going on. So to
I
say,
agree,
oh my gosh,
but
we
the
didn't,
plans they're putting together and they go out,
Yeah.
show me where they're fiscally responsible.
Well,
they're not.
but that's the thing. There isn't even any. There's 5 different bills in committees. There's only one that everyone was screaming and yelling about, HR
Right.
3200. So, and even then, the bill didn't go into the details on how to pay for it because that is what actually comes later in the whole process, apparently. So I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing the Democrats didn't do well is they should have come out and said this is a moral issue. They should have thrown it right back in the conservatives' face.
Yeah.
That's how they do everything. It's all moral. And that's how they get all the people on their side. This is a moral issue.
Yeah.
You've got
So is
people-
healthcare a right?
Yes. I know that. We had this argument on a Beer 30 show a year ago.
I don't remember how it played out. Let's watch.
Is it?
Go ahead. What,
I
is it
believe
a
it's a
right?
right.
Is healthcare a right?
I believe access to affordable quality health care is a right.
So we don't have access to affordable quality healthcare?
No,
now?
we
No,
don't.
we
Lots
don't.
of people don't. They can't get it because of pre-existing conditions.
Okay.
You've got people that have, paying premiums in the thousands of dollars, plus still have copay. I mean, when you look, whatever it is, like what, like 75% of bankruptcies in this country are medically related. Of that 75%, over 50% had private insurance.
Yeah.
They hit their cap. They
Yeah.
hit their maximum.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because people
you
don't
can't.
have health insurance anymore in order to keep them healthy. They have health insurance as a catastrophic
It's a
event
pay or
insurance.
die
They
system.
pay or die. And once they keep you alive, you get dropped from insurance, and then you have to fight your way back. And that's just the way it works.
I think in a country like ours, healthcare is a right because I go back to an
Wow,
economic.
you've changed your tune.
No, that's not true. I said
Because he's independent.
Yeah, you can.
This is the softening of Jamie.
No, you can
gonna
go back
come
to the early
next week. We're in
episodes, and I
doilies.
said the same thing. If you look at the amount of money that we spend and the patchwork system that we have, it would seem to me that there's got to be a way to make the system run a lot more efficiently with a lot less of the bureaucratic red tape that we have now, and cover more people and give them better coverage than they have today in a more efficient system. We are spending per capita way more money than other countries are and getting less in the terms of the overall benefit. Right? So if you look at that, it's like something's wrong with the system and it's got to be fixed. So I think healthcare in a country this rich is clearly a right, and we have to figure out a way to make the system work better and more efficiently. But what I'm not for is spending billions or trillions of dollars trying to do that. There's got to be a way to do it that is a lot less expensive than some of the stuff I've seen.
I feel like I can't weigh. I feel like I can't weigh in on that question because Obama has come out saying I'm not going to sign a bill that's going to add billions or trillions to revenue. He says we're going to find a way to do a bill to pay for it in a way that can make everybody happy. That's not going to hit our deficit. So I have belief that is core to his belief in the administration's process.
I hope so.
I believe that we're getting our panties in a twist because of the hate and fear that there are going to be huge lines and that there are going to be, that getting these 50 million people.
There's not going to be enough doctors. I mean, that was the Republicans' argument for Medicare. I'm going to lose my doctor. The 50 million people going to hospitals are going to mean that I'm going to have to take a hit on my care.
It's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous because there is no discussion. We say we're going to have a discussion. There is no discussion.
Yeah.
And I think I hope that the party of no right now, I hope they can't sleep at night. I hope they figure. I hope they are plagued by their actions because this is.
It's similar to and they just the people who are in the no side play in people's ignorance and fears. It's like, did you see the White House email kind of flap that happened a couple days ago where the White House had an email address that you could sign up for and you could get messages that came back to you and gave you some of the truths of what's going on, right? Because there's a lot of fear out there. Are there going to be all these death watches and stuff? And they say, no, here's what the language says and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Some groups signed people up for that without them knowing it. Then those people then started getting spam, what would appear to be spam in their case. Well, of course, people then start saying up and saying, now the government's spamming us. Now the government's trying to tell us what to think and blah, blah, blah. And that's not what happened.
And I heard, which is that they're getting our emails and watching our emails.
Yeah, they're watching us. And it's
that's been done for the last 8 years. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. That's not what they were doing. If you signed up for it and you wanted information, you got information. And because somebody signed you up for it, I mean, that can't be helped. I'm sorry. It's not like the government's being Big Brother here in that case. But it's that type of misinformation and then people buying into it and then being very ignorant and not listening to the facts and paying attention that just drives all this out of control. And that's how you get these town hall meetings that just blow up. That and the fact that Republicans kind of fly in people to act all pissy.
Exactly.
And stuff.
Well, and here was my other thing with the town halls. It's like, I'm sitting here, I read the documents, I follow. I don't need to go to a town hall and sit down with my congressman to hear his opinion on it. So the only people going to town halls across the board are people that have some sort of skepticism and need answers. So to act like then that that this is how the majority of Americans are thinking and believing right now is completely disingenuous. I mean, when we have, what is it, 350 million people in this country? I mean, what do you think the numbers of these town halls are? 100,000 tops or something? I mean, we're not even talking about
I don't know that they're
1% of the
representative.
population.
Right.
But they are starting to sway public opinion, which was the whole point. Because people who maybe can't be informed as much, probably because they're working too damn hard and can't have time to do that, then start to go, wow, people are really angry and upset. There must be something to that. So therefore, I'm going to start to question it as well.
Because they get their news in 30 seconds news bites. So they look on TV, they see people angry, see people throwing stuff, and think, oh shit, this is bad. I ain't voting for this.
Oh my God, it's blowing up. People have guns.
Yeah, exactly.
Now there's another question I have for you. I am just floored that people can be walking anywhere even near where the president is with rifles. I didn't realize that's allowed. I mean, if you
what happened?
If you sit and make a public statement about killing the president, Secret Service is on your rear end investigating you. Yet these guys are just hanging out outside where the president is with some AK-4s.
AK-4s.
Whatever they were.
all
47.
and
Well, they weren't the main ones.
the
They
other
were the
43
smaller
ones
version.
of them.
I'm not a gun guru. I don't know, but I do know it was more than a handgun.
Well,
And
maybe an
something that
AK-4 is a
that
handgun.
could
Actually,
kill
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
people pretty quickly.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, it's
and-
for hunting.
well, yes, of course.
No, I
You
think
hunt
that's
with
a really
one of
good
those,
point.
you're
It's-
cheating.
I would assume there was some kind of law that says you can't be within
Secret
100
Service
yards.
said there's no problem.
Oh,
I'm
really?
like, really? Wow. I'm shocked.
that you can wander around
Yeah.
outside the
But again,
perimeter.
The
you
reality is, again, society is based upon this idea that you value your life as much as the other person does. So most normal people wouldn't carry a gun around the president because they're thinking, wait a second, this is bad mojo. Something's
Because what the bottom line is, there are always going to be more guns on that side of the fence.
Yeah. So most normal people would think this is not a good thing. But again, if you are angry or you don't value your life or whatever, then, it's pretty easy to get away with stuff.
But I mean, really, like, the
there's-
guy in New Hampshire who left Arizona because he thought they were getting too laxed on gun laws, so he moves to New Hampshire. But it's like, really, what's going on in society that you feel that unsafe that you must have a gun strapped to your leg at all times, whether you're going to church or the grocery store or to stop and get a tank of gas? I mean, is it?
Yeah, there's
Well, I don't
I'm not
understand that.
exactly sure what the gun law is, but there was one in Oklahoma that was recently passed that actually is a repeal of a concealed weapon law, which actually says you now don't have to conceal it. You actually could wear it in a holster.
Like in Arizona, that's what you can do.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
actually, like a quick draw kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's stunning to me, the import of guns in this country. Why do we care so much about our guns? It's not a liberty thing,
Independence. I mean, it's certainly
It's a symbol.
Yeah.
It's a
You
symbol of
can't-
independence.
Don't come take my
Yeah.
cigarettes or my guns.
Yeah,
those
I mean,
are really
it's,
the two.
I'm an American. I can do what I want.
I'm going to smoke with my gun and drink whiskey.
Yeah,
'Cause
and
that's
drive
what
a big
I-
SUV.
And drive
And
a
then drive,
huge
right.
SUV.
Right.
And the more you complain about it, the bigger one I'm going to get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
I
I
mean,
know
that's-
I grew up with guns, so I don't particularly have a problem with it because I am used to people carrying guns, and it's no big deal, right? Where I struggle with guns is people don't respect them. And having a family member that was shot by accident by another person, I have this huge
Well,
respect for
yeah.
what happens.
power
and the
behind
power.
it.
And I don't think people fully understand that. So I think they carry guns around as a status symbol more than anything else. Is
Are you-
look at me, I'm free. I can do this. I can do what I want.
Are you
but
sure it's not because they're
wacko?
not
You're
endowed
making-
down there?
Oh,
That's a symbol you were making. I was
you
like,
were pointing at the
okay,
junk. I get it now. It's a junk symbol.
No. Yeah, well, that's
No,
yeah.
So they're
I-
compensating.
No, I think they really think it's about being free, and I guess I'm a little different. The most powerful thing I think you have is your mind and how you use it, and Benjamin Franklin and those types of guys would agree. But at the same time, it's become kind of a symbol world. It's all about the car you drive. It's all about the gun you carry.
I think really that it's awesome. You just compared yourself to Ben Franklin.
Why?
Just
Because we're both
you
like
got-
good looking.
Yeah,
what?
you got you got cojones there, man, to compare yourself to Ben Franklin.
It was the.
I just look over.
just popped
I
into
look
my
around this
head.
bar, and then I look over at you, and I think,
Oh,
wow,
Ben Franklin.
that's a modern day
the
Ben
bald
Franklin right
head.
there. That's a
He
modern
needs
day
some
Ben.
glasses down on his nose. And
God, look at him, just wisdom
But-
all over
Thank
the
you.
place.
So
Absolutely.
we have kind of digressed from the healthcare thing, and so here's an interesting stat that I want to throw out. So we were talking about where the money. How do you sit and pay for this?
Yeah.
So United Healthcare. So we know which is the largest healthcare in the country, and we know that Helmsley, who's the CEO of that, his salary, he makes $102,000 an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, how do you make that money? Well, you deny sick people their due when they file claims. That's the only way you sit and make that kind of profit. So United Healthcare, the second quarter of this year, had a 155% increase in profits over last year. So what's been going on in the rest of the country for the last year? Has anybody been making that kind of profit other than oil?
Has
Well,
oil been
and
making
oil
that
hasn't
kind of
even making any profit
No.
now that the oil's come back down.
Well, but last year they
No,
had
but-
insane profits quarter to
But
quarter.
the debate becomes
So there's something going on here. A lot of our money is going in here for a few select group of people to make who is even worth $102,000 an hour?
Jesus.
But again,
He wouldn't
he's
take it.
HMO. He would probably be working for UHC.
He'd be working for Kaiser,
He'd be
right? Where
working
there's
for
a
a
big
buck.
line. It's $5, but you have to wait 12 months.
He'd
right?
be working for a buck.
You may be dead. You're smelling pretty bad, but we'll get to you, dude. And it'll be $5. I think it comes back to when you talk about the profit in healthcare. Should these large companies like that have the ability to make money, or should it be a nonprofit type of situation? And that's an interesting debate because, again, the United States is founded on free enterprise,
Right.
competition, go where
Right.
you can get the best deal, et cetera.
But
And
once
if you
say
make money
healthcare
at
is
it,
a right,
But we don't
but
do that
once
with
you
the
say
police
healthcare is a right,
department. Okay.
then it begs the question of, do you then have the right to pay salaries like that and et cetera on the backs of the people? And that's an interesting question because as soon as it becomes a right, then you're absolutely right. That person probably shouldn't make that kind of money because they're not serving their constituents or their group to the best of their ability.
They're serving their stockholders. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
and
what,
themselves.
That's what a business is in the business of doing, is making profit for their stockholders.
Because greed is good at the end of the day. Greed is what drives innovation and all that kind of stuff. So the question becomes: Is healthcare? Should healthcare follow those
right.
same
And
rules?
I don't think that even
not
if
sure
you
that it
went
should.
where we went down the path and had public option, okay. I've been wanting single payer. I want Medicare for all, and that has been my whole point from the beginning. However, it still doesn't mean that private insurance would go away. Because you could still have things. You buy a private insurance so that you can get your boob job. Okay, you have private insurance so that when you actually go into the hospital, you get a concierge service while you're in the hospital. You could still have a need for private insurance. And some of these other countries that have, whether they have socialized medicine like UK or they have single payer, like Canada or France, they still have private insurance companies in those countries, and people are buying it for different things. You could use it as a supplement to your Medicare, just in case, or various different.
But isn't
issues.
the big argument for that say that as soon as you introduce that kind of a system, the limited medical resources that exist in the country, the fact that we don't have enough nurses to even cover the people we have now, the fact that the doctors are making less now than they ever have before, supposedly, I don't know the stats on that, I just hear that out there. But as soon as you introduce that, you say, okay, well now the people who have the funds to afford the premium solution will get the concierge service. They'll get the doctors. Everybody else who has the let's just barely keep you alive single payer option, they may have to wait for the long lines. I mean every single hole you put your thumb in the dike.
Right.
I mean,
but I think there's
come
a
on.
thing that we have to, the majority of people, okay, and I'm not going to say this, I'm not going to say all, because there's certainly a group of people that become doctors strictly because it's prestigious in society and you make a lot of money.
I think there are
but
a lot of
the majority
doctors
of
that do it
people
for
that go into medicine initially actually are going in, there is some sort of drive to serve.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Whether it's nursing or whether it's doctors. So to make the assumption then that doctors would sit and say, oh, you can't pay me very much, but you do, I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive.
And I'm not saying that about doctors. I'm saying about a system that drives that kind of bifurcation based on what you can afford.
That's always going to happen unless you become a total socialist society. And then what happens is it's the people who are in the government who win and everybody else loses. I mean, at a certain point, money buys you love. I mean, if you've got the money and you want to pay for a single
Money
room
talks,
that's
baby.
got 1,000 square feet and 2 bathrooms and a nurse who runs around with no top on, congratulations, you can pay for that. I mean, that's just the way life works. You can't really stop that from happening. But that doesn't mean, to go back to Mary's original point, that you can't have a system where the government has a certain level that it can provide, and then you've got supplemental insurance that people buy or something else that kind of rides above that. I think that's to me, I think that makes a lot of sense. But you have to figure out how to do it in a way that doesn't cost, that's
Right.
not going to bust the bank. I think that's one of the challenges, because you can't continue to feed Medicare, perpetually and expect it to try and cover everybody and just be this big black hole. There's got to be a way to figure out and make it as revenue neutral as possible.
Yeah, and I think you can. I mean, it for the most part runs fairly revenue neutral right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
But there's issues just because of tax. Taxes are down across the board. We're not enough
Right.
money is coming into the government.
But if you treated Medicare like a business, so then it
Right.
truly did compete with other insurance companies, and you could see the bottom line of it cost us this much, we put this much into it in terms of premiums or whatever. I mean, why not?
Right.
Why not let it run and compete? And then
Medicare has a 3% overhead. That's what it operates
yeah, it's
on.
cheap.
And what is
Right.
I think private insurance is 20.
Anywhere
I think.
from
Is that what it
15
is?
to like 35, depends on the.
Well, so this argument, which is really fascinating to me, because people say the government is inefficient, and it is at a lot of things. But then they say, oh, well, if you have national insurance, say Medicare, then private insurances can't compete. Well, what do you mean you can't compete? You're
I
supposed to
thought
be
you
more
were just
efficient.
saying. I thought you were just
Yeah.
saying the government can't do anything right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's been my other thing. I'm like, my God, you've
Yeah.
just contradicted yourself out of both
Yeah, exactly. So
sides of your mouth. It's crazy. I mean, I think and we've had the capitalism discussion, which is, we don't want the government controlling. We don't want them making computers and TVs and shoes.
I don't know about that.
and
I
clothes
think
and
I
bicycles
think
and,
I think there's
but-
another right we haven't talked about, and that's the right to really awesome laptops.
Okay.
And I would like the government
to
to
buy me a
fund
Mac.
my really awesome laptop.
yeah, as long as it's a Mac.
I want one of those
Yeah.
thin daddies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
That's
Steve
that's what I
Jobs
want.
needs more
No.
money.
No.
Yeah, speaking of people
and
who
I'm
are
not
paid a lot of
saying-
money.
I'm not even saying that it should just be Apple. I think
One laptop for every
that
child.
Mary's massive gigantor laptop here should also be included. There's
What's
a
that, like a
right to
21-inch
gadgetry.
screen on that laptop? Is it?
I think it's
Holy
17,
moly.
isn't
17.
it?
Oh, yeah, she acts like, it's so small.
Well, it's thick.
Yeah.
And it has nice controls.
It's got, fancy
Yeah.
bells and whistles that really don't do anything.
It's an Acer.
Okay, now.
Hey,
Sorry,
what-
I derailed. No, I think. Go ahead. What you were saying?
I was going to ask what else was on our list
Oh.
to talk about.
Gender bender.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of healthcare,
Speaking of
Speaking of
healthcare, that's exactly the segue I was counting on.
Yes.
What is the story with this
castrate guy.
guy, girl?
Castor.
Oh,
Is
Castor.
that a
Freudian slip.
Castor
Yeah.
Semenya. Yes. Is it a chick or is
Dude
it a
or a
dude?
Chick or
Check.
dude? This is a tough one.
Check it out on our Facebook page.
Yeah,
Yes,
put
we
the
have a
video
You-
on the Facebook
yeah,
page.
YouTube
I think
video
the
there.
gender. I think the
So the
gender's
deal
out.
is,
The
right?
jury
She's
is out.
It's
a racer from
dude.
a runner from Africa, right?
Won the 800 meter.
Right.
From
As
South
at
Africa.
Worlds.
It's really kind of come out of nowhere,
Yep.
and
Yep.
runs like a
Is-
dude,
Runs like a dude.
looks
built
like a dude,
like
kind
a
of
dude.
built
Musculature
like a
dude.
of a dude.
says
Has
she's
mannerisms
a
of
chick.
a dude.
Yeah. This
Mom
sounds,
claims it's a chick. She's a chick. Mom says I raised her. I saw that today in the news. Said
Yes,
I,
that's it's in
I
here.
know. I raised her. I birthed her. Father says, dude looks like a lady, but it's a chick. So
Wow.
I don't know. I'm gonna guess it's gonna come back. It's kind of these kind of mixed things
I
that are
wonder if
going
it's
on.
one of, what if it's one of those that was
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this was
what
on
do you
House.
call that term?
Hermaphrodite.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
where they had to make a choice.
Jamie
Right,
Lee
right,
Curtis was.
Right. Really? I didn't know that.
For real?
That's what
That
I've
says a
always
lot.
heard.
Wow.
And they
I'll
had
have to
to
look
make
That
yeah.
out. Scurrilous.
So it could be, but then I'm
I could be
thinking-
starting a very dangerous rumor.
Yeah,
if that-
seriously.
Yeah. But then I'm thinking Africa. I mean, speaking of healthcare, so do you
Right.
have the opportunity
Yeah.
to make these choices in that
Well,
environment?
Not
I
in
don't
South
know.
Africa,
Maybe- yeah,
considering
I
the
don't
color
know.
of his or her skin.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Wow.
It's going to come back some kind of mixed
No,
thing, 'cause
weren't they
clearly,
asking for a test?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they did.
did.
The,
Oh, they
I
did
think
the
they
test?
Did. I
Do we
thought
have
they
the
did the
results?
test. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
But
definitely find the
I
results.
think it's probably, and I don't know the test. I understand
I
from
think,
reading.
I think there's a test you can do. It's pretty quick. I think.
Well,
it's put on,
what
on
I
the rubber
understand is the
glove.
test is a little more complicated than just drop your drawers and show your junk. And because I
You
understand,
could have both.
yeah,
Yeah.
or maybe you pass one, but then you've got these extra genes in there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. So evidently
what
the
do you
test
do?
takes some time.
What do you do? If
They have
that's
a
the case.
they have a panel though that makes a decision, and the panel is multiple people
Yeah.
from multiple disciplines that
In countries.
yeah, that come together and will make a final determination.
Yeah.
My gut tells me just by visual inspection and listening to her talk on YouTube and stuff that it's a dude.
I think so. Now the principal, this is in an article on Yahoo. The principal did say, where was that? That I first realized she was a girl in grade 11. He
Oh,
said,
yeah. Wasn't sure till then.
explaining how she had moved to stand with the girls' team after he had divided the boys and girls for a short running race. But prior to that, he'd always thought she was a boy.
She's clearly
she
a
wore
tomboy.
boyish look. She always
Right.
wore pants. She played mainly
Yeah.
with the boys, soccer and stuff. So
Could be an
Well,
issue of
truth be told, if it's a girl, as everybody claims, she's really a hell of a runner.
yeah,
That's the point.
yeah,
One hell of a runner.
that's right.
well, that or on a lot of steroids or something
Yeah.
to make her look that way. But
And I wonder if surely they do automatic.
I'm gonna
Don't they
guess.
do
I mean, I
automatic
don't know.
testing?
I'm assuming,
I think
but
they do.
we'll find out. I
Wow.
guess over time.
All right.
Very
So stay
interesting.
tuned. We will know in a few weeks, I guess, what is going on.
I'm sure everyone's just on pins and
Oh,
needles.
Speaking of news, right?
Yeah,
It's
speaking
like,
of stories that might just line up on the cover of the Drudge Report.
hey, a very high quality
Right.
news source.
That's right. Apparently, according to Jamie, that there is a drop in world temperatures which fuels the global warming debate.
Well, it is interesting that the sun activity has been down,
The sun activity?
and as activity of the sun has gone down, so has warming.
What is sun activity? Burning?
Yeah, like
that
really
what we're-
hot.
Just
yeah.
being hot, and that activity is down, it's going to be
The number
less
of
hot.
the number of solar flares are way down. The number of activity, sunspots and etc. are down. Therefore, the Earth is starting to cool again, which begs the question, of course, what is global warming? So I'm not a huge global warming believer. You
Well,
guys know
but
that.
see, to use the term global warming is
I know
kinda
now.
passé
I know
now.
now we
Climate-
talk about it
No,
as
it's-
global as climate change,
climate
which
change
is
because-
great because then if it's raining,
Yeah,
it's climate change.
climate change.
If it's warm, it's climate. Whatever happens, it's all about climate change. I mean, what a bogus
no, it
argument!
means
Come
that
on.
that it is going to change. It's having effect on
But
weather
the weather
patterns.
changes anyways,
Storms,
Mary. I mean, it always
storms
happens.
are more intense. We're getting hotter here. I mean, come on. I've lived here in 8 years, and every summer there's more and more days in the 90s and the hundreds.
But
and
you're measuring it over just a course of 10 years. I mean,
Well, but-
weather has changed.
it's accelerated over
For
the last. That's
thousands
been the
of
whole
years.
point, though. The point of scientists with climate change, they don't deny that there's patterns by any means. What they say is the acceleration of these patterns are the problem.
That's it, right?
I mean, the glaciers are melting.
got
I mean, what
owned.
else?
No.
What else
no,
do you want?
I'm letting her finish. I'm just.
I mean, they're
And I'm thinking
melting.
about all this stuff.
you know.
I'll start posting on our Facebook page about.
So-
So the real question is it man-made? I mean, that's the real bottom line, right?
Well-
and that's where I start. Again, I start getting into the
But
debate
what
of.
difference does it make? I mean, when we're all burning up, who the rat hats cares?
Well,
what's the reason?
well-
we're all burning up and scorching.
Well, because then we start talking about ways that we can change the amount of carbon emission that we have, and then that comes down to a financial issue, and that comes down to, again, a burden on the average person. So if you believe that global warming is happening, that things are accelerating, and if you believe it's man-made, therefore you believe that you can change it by changing what you do or spend money or whatever, and that has an effect on us. So that's what I worry about. I don't worry about is it 90 degrees or 80 degrees. What I worry about is if it is man-made, then what are we going to do about it? How does that affect me?
you will when
well,
August
I
hits
mean,
120 and you
there's-
spontaneously combust.
It's
But that
also,
isn't that-
It's also
that-
not just about
No.
heat.
You
You know,
can't
there's
make
things
that
like
up.
Not about
I
heat.
mean,
You know that.
the Pacific Northwest is in serious risk as our glaciers sit and melt.
But what are we
because
gonna
we
do about it?
rely on that water all summer long. That's what the
Is it man-made?
I don't care about that. My point is that for 2 summers now, you've had apple farms and cherry farms and stuff that haven't had adequate water so the agricultural
Okay.
business is in jeopardy.
I
you
buy
have
that.
massive increase in allergies and asthma, which is all tied to a ragweed explosion, which can be tied back to it.
I buy
I mean,
that.
there's food web issues. There are honeybees, disappearing. We've
It's
got a problem.
I
Einstein
buy that.
said, so goes the honeybees, so goes the population.
Yeah, I buy
Well,
all
if
that.
we have no honeybees, we don't have
where,
food.
Yeah.
Where I call bullshit is when we then say it's all man-made. So what we really need to do is tax you more or do something else and change and try and force some kind of behavior on you from the government side so that we can make a change in
Who's
this.
taxing you? Who's taxing you?
That
over
the
that?
goal is to.
Well, I mean, I don't, I don't know. I mean, yes, we have to have money to pay for some of these things, but it's also, we're at a point where we're in a change, of industry, okay? I mean, we have industries that have gone away because it was no longer right, and people had to move on and find new jobs, all right? And and so the government gets involved and puts money into education so those people can go to schools
Agreed.
and get, right? So we're at one of those points,
An
okay?
inflection point.
And so what we may have to invest, and there may be tax dollars, but it's about investing for the future, which means a whole new industry, a whole new set of jobs.
Yeah, I understand
So
that.
there's one benefit. Number two, if we're driving cars and we're using less fuel, then we're getting our asses out of the Middle East, which is where we should be out of, and we don't have to be using them for their oil, and therefore we don't have to be so involved in everything they're doing, and thus in these wars that then cost us money.
I understand
mean, there's
the
a
argument.
ripple effect here too. It's not just,
But
it's just not one thing.
I tend to fall on the Keynesian side, which is there's an invisible hand that will eventually affect our behavior. It's like automobiles. So we've been talking for years that we drive too much, we drive these big SUVs, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, oil starts going up. What happens? People start driving
Exactly.
smaller
Oh,
cars.
hey, yes.
So financially, we will change our behavior based upon what goes on around us.
Right.
So I would prefer to that type of environment than an environment where we are regulated and told what we have to do.
Okay, but
Right.
that's happening. I mean, what it's doing is through education, I'm all for tax benefits. So if somebody has the choice between a car that sucks massive gasoline and a car that doesn't, that person should get the tax credit. That person shouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, unless of course it is for their job. That's a whole different story. So whether you're in construction or those kinds of things where you need to have those type of automobiles, you still get your tax credit because you do as a business.
It bothers me though that we use taxes as a way to control people's
Well,
behavior.
but Jamie,
I mean, I'd rather. So
It's
on
the
that,
bottom line.
it is. I mean, really. But go back to, we use taxes as a way to say, oh, well, you should buy a house or you shouldn't buy a house. You should buy this type of car. You shouldn't buy this type of car. Also, this industry should get supported and this industry should not get supported. This industry has power. This industry does not have power. I would rather see some kind of flat tax or some kind of retail system where everything gets taxed the same, then the consumers can make the decision. Because what I don't like is a tax system that puts our political representatives at the point where they can make decision about who wins and who loses. Because then they start making decisions about, well, let's bail out this group, or let's not tax this group, but we'll tax this group because we're friends with these people, or they lent us their plane and that kind of stuff.
Well,
that just creates
okay.
this whole dynamic that I don't like.
And I completely agree, and that's where, if we're really ever, because the point is anymore is the government is not, it's not for the people, okay? Regardless of what party that's there. I will say the Progressive Caucus, tends to be a little bit more for the people and less for corporations and that type of thing. But they are bought and sold. It doesn't matter what we think or want until we are stronger than the money coming in from the lobby. Mm-hmm. Because they also know that. It doesn't matter if they have a ton of money to spend to campaign if the majority of the people in the district are going to vote you out anyways. So there will be a tipping point where the power of the people, but we can't compete with these people. We can't compete with a healthcare lobby that spends $1.4 million a day to talk us out of healthcare reform.
You're saying
how do we do
Beer
that?
30 Live isn't that powerful?
I wish we had that about. But so,
Well, we're on the
I'm
curve.
the cynic,
We're
where
on
I
the
think
curve.
that really we're never going to truly have the government doing what it was intended to do till we have publicly financed campaigns, and you can no longer, as a corporation, basically bribe.
Right.
I mean, it's bribery, but yet
I
it's
will
legal
argue
there. But
that-
yet, if you took a bribe, you'd go to jail.
Yes, I would. I would argue that.
It's unfair.
By the way, McMinimums, if you want to bribe me with beer for the show, we
We'll
will
continue to plug you.
I would also argue, though, that we will not have a government for the people unless you figure out how to equalize the tax system and do some kind of, again, national sales tax and get rid of the way the tax system works,
Jamie,
so then
but
people can make their own decisions. Because, again,
We're
what
taxed
happens
less
is,
than we were under Reagan.
yeah, we're taxed less, but we are also, if you look at how we are incentivized to spend, basically what happens is power gets shoved to the government and they get to make decisions about who wins and who loses.
But no,
and
not
that
if
is
it's
inappropriate.
true. Not if it's a true democracy, which is if
Not
they
if it
don't
were-
do what we want and they go, we vote them
Yeah,
out.
but it's not a true democracy, and we know that. right?
because of
Right.
the situation we're in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the.
I
that's
would
the
argue it's
bottom
also
line.
a tax issue, but
You know, but you have to, you know, this is the other thing with you know, Americans, and I spent a very short period of time in a third world country, and Americans don't,
Eastern
they don't
Oregon.
get it. Yeah, Eastern Oregon. They don't get it. I mean, you take for granted when you go sit on that toilet and hit that little knob, how great that is.
Yeah,
Okay?
no, we don't.
Versus some system takes all your waste and gets it out, and you don't have to touch it or get contaminated by it. I mean, we don't know how lucky we are that we have roads that are paved without huge, you know, potholes, where the instant that it rains, that road becomes a massive river, and you can't get up it. Okay. Anyway, we're clueless.
Where are you going with this?
My point is you have to have taxes to run this country.
Oh, I don't disagree with that at all. I just
and
think
it's expensive.
I agree with that too. I just think our tax system is set up to incentivize us to pick winners and losers, and the consumers should be allowed to pick that based upon their spending behavior. So rather than saying, well, I'll tax you this way or that way depending upon what you do, don't do it that way. Tax everybody the same, tax some kind of sales tax or something like that, so that if you want to spend your money, great, spend your money, and you pay the taxes for it. You don't want to spend it, you want to be a saver, that's fine, that's your business too. But that way takes power out of Washington, and they don't get to make those decisions for people.
I'm not really sure how the flat tax does that. I mean, because part of the issue right now, the main people who have the tax burden in this country are the middle class. All right, we are helping out and taking care of the people below us who are struggling, working 3 jobs, and I have no problem doing that. And we're also coddling all those rich people up there as well. We are taking the brunt of this. So when we talk about taxes, it is unfair because the top 2% of the tax base doesn't pay their fair share. Okay.
Well,
they also have the ability to hire some high-powered accountant who figure out all these creative ways to hide their money. And I don't have that luxury. There's no way I can.
That's why if you move to a system, like again, talking about a national sales tax where you get rid of income tax and what people spend, then what happens is the more you spend, the more you pay. So people who are rich will spend a higher percentage or will spend.
So you're not even talking a flat tax, meaning we all pay 10% of our income?
I don't want to do income tax. No, I'd rather get rid of all those.
You can't fund it. You couldn't fund the country that way.
There was national sales tax? Absolutely you can. There were some really good books on it.
And then what happens when consumers stop spending money?
Well, they won't. You have to live. I mean, they aren't going to stop spending.
Come on. I mean, we are consumers. We're 70% of our economy is consumer
Absolutely.
spending.
I mean, it's a far better way to do it.
We don't make anything in this country anymore.
I will get you some good books on this, and then we will sit down and talk about it.
How about the fact that we don't charge any tariffs on any of our stuff going out, yet we pay out the wazoo to China? I mean, we have a screwed up system, and here's the bottom line. Reagan was responsible, Bush was responsible, Clinton is responsible, Bush is responsible, and if we're not careful, Obama's heading down the same path. It is this concept of trickle-down economics. It's been proven it doesn't work, okay, because what you have to take into assumption if trickle-down economics is that those people in those positions are altruistic and they want to help out everybody else. That's not how it is. Greed. People get up there and it's all about hoarding more and more money. And now all of a sudden 2 million's not enough, and then 3 million's not enough. I mean, it's a human nature thing. And so then what they do, and then here came NAFTA and GATT, okay, which we got Clinton and Bush both involved in that. And what'd that do? All those people that had all that money, they said, F the American people. Sorry, we just had our
hello explicit tag.
But that's what they did, and they picked up and they took their businesses overseas where they can rape other people with low salaries, and then the rest of us over here.
Okay. So for about the last 10 minutes, I totally tuned you both out until you said that people around the world were being raped with low salaries.
Many are.
I'm
Look
not.
at the conditions
you know
that
what?
they're
I'm
working
in no position to argue with you.
And
right
I'm not
now.
saying the government's not playing a role there too, but we're fueling that by doing that.
So let's just say hypothetically
we don't make anything in this country anymore.
I just want to say hypothetically.
That's a huge problem. Where's our manufacturing base? We don't have it.
I agree.
I mean,
I don't agree with all you said. Maybe 50%.
Do you know? That's a
lot.
Vast improvement over last time we got together. We've been doing this for an hour.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring. It's one of the reasons why I'm like, I'm gonna just let it go.
Let me ask you, when your blood starts to boil, do you black out a little bit?
Wake up a little bit later. Where have I been? What have I been doing?
I get a little fired up.
Just a little. Well, it was almost just fun to watch you and then to needle you to see how far you'll go.
That's what you always do. You love to
It's
needle.
my job.
I know.
Let's pretend somebody wanted to find out more about you guys. Where would they go?
Where would they go?
Should we just everybody go to the? You don't want people to like email you or anything. Facebook better.
Yeah, just contact
Facebook yeah.
Facebook. Contact us on Facebook.
Let's
right?
do Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely could look us up at Facebook.
So can you
find
bleep my word?
Oh no, you're not getting bleeped.
No, explicit
getting
tags like an
explicited.
R-rated on the movies. Man, it's better.
Yeah, that's better.
You get more people.
Well, it's got an explicit tag.
Yeah,
I guess
that's
I want to listen
Yeah.
to it.
The healthcare debate, new and explicit. Awesome.
Find us on Facebook.
Find us on Facebook. Friend us up.
Friend
we
us.
want to talk. We want to.
We'll put some news feeds up related to some of this
The
stuff.
show will be on the wall today,
Yeah.
and that's what I got. You guys
Share
have
it with
anything
your
else?
friends.
Nope.
This has been good.
been
Welcome
fun.
back.
Welcome back.
Yes, very
Now,
good.
are we gonna talk to our audience about where we've been and why we weren't around, or are we just gonna?
Oh no, that should
Avoid
be a
all that?
secret.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll save that for another time.
Thanks everybody for listening. It's been great fun being back here at John Barleycorn's. McMiniman, please come down and drink their beer and eat their tater tots. And particularly the American dip. They've named it the American dip. It's actually a French dip.
Didn't they get rid of the French
I don't
fries?
think they like French
Because we
people.
don't-
That's the one. If you're French,
Oh,
maybe you
I
don't want to come
see.
here. Other than that, peace out, everybody. This has been Beer 30 Live.
We're out.